Okay, Firemac here, and let's continue. Alright, let me just make sure everything's in order. Yep, recording. Yep, alright, let's go. Are you okay? I turned to face her.
Yeah.
Better than ever. She smiled, but watched me a few seconds. I tried to put as much of my resolve into my eyes as I could. I could do this. Finally, she nodded. I turned to my classwork. First, I had to get through class. After that, the library. Be strong, Hana. I entered the library, the slightly damp smell of old books and little sunlight tugging my clothes. Bypassing clumps of students with their heads hung over my... Let me try that again. Bypassing clumps of students with their heads hung over homework, I went straight to the front desk. Satch stood behind it, searching frantically for something in the piles of papers stacked along the back wall. He kept shaking his head and pausing, almost as if he were muttering to himself, running his hands over his hair. It was odd. He looked really stressed. That wasn't normal for him. I almost didn't want to interrupt, but I came here for a reason. Excuse me? He jumped slightly.
Hana.
Oh, Hana. How can I help you? When he smiled, it almost seemed as if nothing was wrong, even though that clearly wasn't the case. But the strangest thing was that the smile didn't seem disingenuous. He was truly smiling, happy or content about something. Satch would never ask for help, even if he needed it. Are you alright? You don't seem very well. Satch glanced around him before replying in a low whisper. More books have gone missing. Oh. Mine's not due for another few weeks, so at least I'm not the one hurting you this time. My joke fell flat as a dead raccoon. Satch's face caved in. He stared at the counter in front of him. It's not looking good for me.
What?
What do you mean? He opened his mouth, but didn't speak. After a pause, he began to chew his lip. Then something strange happened. He seemed to almost gather himself up. He took a deep breath, set his shoulders back, and smiled. Don't worry about it. It made my heart break. I wanted to crawl around the corner and give him a hug. I wanted to feel the weight of his head against my shoulder, something to help him unload the burdens he carried. But as I looked at his smile, I realized he didn't want me to. More than that, he didn't want me to. Maybe if I were Gerard or Paul, but not Hana. Not right now, at least. Maybe during the flower festival we were close enough to share some of our burdens. But now? Satch was struggling, and he didn't trust me enough to let me see it. My heart dropped. My neck grew hot. How exactly am I not supposed to worry about it? He waved a hand as if swatting away a fly. I'll be fine. No. Well, I have no doubt that you'll be fine on your own, but... It was now or never. Maybe he didn't want my help, but he still needed it. I paused for a second, trying to find the best way to word my intentions.
Well...
You're already trying to help me, and you have so much on your plate. The least I can do is help you find the missing books. 2 heads are better than... No, really, that won't be necessary. Why not? Other people are here for a reason. I'm here for a reason. I'm your friend. I want to help you, Satch. Satch looked at me skeptically. He really didn't trust me, did he? Damn it. See, by trusting I think I just screwed it up with Satch because he's acting distant. If I decided to out he would probably be acting a little more comfortable to me. So I might have just put myself on the bad end track already. I'm not going to give up on this. Really, Hana, that's very kind of you, but... He looked around him in desperation. I don't think that would be helpful. Please, just let me handle this. I've got everything under control, I swear. But... Satch glanced over his shoulder. The librarian. Something weird with her. Her design's really weird. I mean it.
Alright, be good.
I've got to get back to work. I'll see you later. She's watching him. So if I helped, it wouldn't fly with the librarian. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on here. Satch stepped out from behind the counter and went went to a back room. The librarian waited there, a stern look on her face. I turned and started back through the thick aisles of books. Now what? If someone really didn't want your help, wasn't it kind of bad to force yourself on them? But the question was, did he really not want my help? I was sure it wasn't because he didn't want or need it. It was because for all he said, he believed I didn't take the boots. He didn't trust me, not at all. As if tell me not to help is going to do anything. He's got another thing coming, if that's what he thinks. Sometimes people just don't know what's best for them. Of course, I was assuming I knew better than he did about what he wanted, but I had to do something. I wasn't going to sit around and wait while he was in trouble. It's not looking good for me. Whatever that meant, I wanted to make sure it didn't start looking any worse. And there! I snipped the blades of my scissors shut, and a small book-shaped cutout fell into my lap. Small book-shaped cutout, okay. I set it into its pile and rolled onto my shoulders. Finally, 4 thick piles of multicolored construction paper sat neatly before me. My hands ached from cutting so much at once. I set the scissors aside and grabbed the permanent marker that sat on my desk, along with the cloud-shaped decorations I made earlier.
Hana.
Was her thing always... I don't think her uniform always had Sasaki on it. 5. Have I seen her in her uniform before? I'm pretty sure I have. Okay, anyway. Hey, Hana, I'm back! My face flushed and cheery as usual, bounded into the room.
Hey!
How was practice? I went to practice for the Asagao Strikers almost every evening. The first big game was coming up, but it was at another school, so I wouldn't be able to go see her play. It bothered me a lot, but I was slightly relieved not to have to witness the pyre of burning rage that was my playing volleyball. It was fine, but I totally struck Mimi in the... Oh, what's all this? Mai dropped her duffel bag in her chair, surveying the mass of papers spread out along the floor, with myself at the center. I didn't know we had to do arts and crafts here. I'm making flyers. Actually, would you mind helping me? It'll take me another few hours by myself. Of course. What are they for? She plopped herself on the floor and took up one of the stick figures I made. Some books have gone missing at the library, so I figured we could put up flyers, remind people to turn theirs in on time. Oh, missing books? I tossed a few sheets of paper at her feet, then uncapped a glue stick and started attaching the images. Yeah, they've been missing since a few weeks ago, but now it's getting worse. But one of the books was just one I forgot to turn in, so I figured maybe that happened with all the books. Mai spiraled the stick figure in her hand so it looked like it was doing cartwheels. They can look up who has late books in the system, you know. Yeah. But maybe it'll help anyways. She grabbed the paper book and smeared glue all over the back. People do forget, so maybe half can be reminders and half can be lost and found notes. Yeah, okay. Together we worked through the pile of papers each. We compared handwriting and competed to see who could make the nicest flyer. I have one, of course. It reminded me of kindergarten and was oddly comforting. We ran out of images of books, and I was just handing Maya a permanent marker to start drawing them when she slapped her leg with the back of her hand. Oh, shoot! I totally forgot. I left something in the gym. I should go get it. Okay, hurry back. Yeah, no problem. Odd. It wasn't like Maya to forget something. Usually she only forgot something when she wanted to copy my homework. As I started on the third pile, I began to feel distinctly sad. Why? My hands stilled on the paper, a memory stirring in my head. Back in Amarisu, my parents ran a shop together. My dad created beautiful works of art, pottery, and ceramics, and my mom filled them with the flowers she grew. He tried to teach me how to make pots, but I could never do it. I got too nervous seeing how easily one mistake could completely alter what you were making. Instead, one day he came to my room with a pile of papers. He folded them, and in seconds, a blue morning glory appeared in front of my eyes. How did you do that? Smiling, he handed me purple paper, taught me how to fold a morning glory step by step. When I finished, we sat them side by side. Mine was crumpled and stunted next to his crisp, beautiful creation. But he laughed. Separate neither would be considered beautiful. I blinked. In front of me sat a blue morning glory, the cover of a book sticking out of one petal. Slowly I made my way through that pile of flyers and then the next. The shadows grew longer and longer until they faded altogether. When I finally finished, it was after 9 and Mai still hadn't returned.
Yeah.
I'm done. I lay back on the floor exhausted and glanced at the clock. It shouldn't have taken her this long just to get to the gym. Did she run into someone? I couldn't wait up for her. I had to get up early. I cleaned up, changed into my pajamas, and crawled to my soft, cool sheets. Without my snoring, the room seemed intensely still, like the silence was trying to press itself into my skull. I hope she's okay. The room blurred, and I drifted off to sleep. What? Ugh. What was happening? I couldn't see. My eyes wouldn't stay open. So late. Mai? She closed the door and tiptoed over to her desk. She was being so damn loud. I turned over, vaguely angry. Too tired. Want to sleep. A rustling of paper echoed from her side of the room. Quiet. I drew her shut. Mai climbed up to her bed and the mattress over my head sagged. I glanced at the clock. It was past midnight. She only just got back? Something seemed wrong. School wasn't in session right now. What? I couldn't think straight. My head hit the pillow and I turned over, drifting off to sleep again. You know, for the Satch's route, there's a whole lot of not Satch going on. Bright and early the next morning, I scurried through the halls searching for Satch. I had to catch him before he went to class. There was no way I could show my face in a senior's classroom with everyone still hating me. I turned a corner and was confronted with a flash of bright yellow.
Hey!
Hey, Hana, what are you up to? Hey, what? See, I like the caddies around. Caddy's awesome. Caddy stood in front of me, his head tilted to one side. I didn't know him too well. In fact, this was possibly the first time we ever spoke on our own. Is Caddy Satch's rival in this? That's probably what it is.
Hey.
Hey, Caddy, have you seen Satch? I think he was up a floor. Something wrong? Nope, I made these flyers and I want to give them to him. I nodded at the pile of papers I was holding. They were nearly as tall as my torso. Caddy blinked, as if seeing them for the first time. Cool. He smiled weakly. I paused. Is something wrong? He shoved his hands into his jacket pockets and glanced around the hall. I wouldn't say anything's wrong per se. He trailed off but didn't volunteer any information. Is it about the tournament? In a way, you could say that. He cast his eyes at the floor. Things suddenly don't look too good for us. That's too bad. He looked truly sad, but try as I might, I couldn't hide my glee. He looked at me in surprise. Then a sharp gleam entered his eyes. Don't go thinking it's in the bag yet, Miss Mizuno. We'll give you a right run for your money. Cure. If you say so. Giggling madly, I scurried past him and up a staircase. My fingers were starting to cramp. It wasn't that the flyers were practically heavy, though they were by no means light, but they were horribly awkward to carry, especially up staircases. I pushed the staircase door open with my back and entered the third floor. From across the empty hallway, I saw a familiar figure standing in front of an open
Good
locker.
morning.
Aha!
Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. Hey, girl. Hey, girl. Hana? I dashed his Satch and dropped a pile of flyers in front of him, heaving. Perhaps running up those stairs wasn't such a bright idea.
What's going on?
What brings you here so early? Look! I took a flyer and shoved it into his face. Look at this flyer! Look at it! He stepped back and peered at the writing. Be a good date. Don't turn your books in late. What's this? What is this?
Well,
What is this horrible garbage? I made flyers to help your search for the missing books. I didn't want you to keep working on this alone, so...
Hana.
Oh, Hana. He cringed, scratching the back of his neck. That's great, but I don't know that the librarian would be happy with these. She'll think they highlight what a terrible job she's doing. Oh. I stared at the stack of flyers on the floor, stretching my hands to ease their stiffness. Still, he leaned down and flipped through the sheets. What? Did you make all these yourself? Yeah, last night. Ma helped me too. Your handwriting's really nice. Thank you. My hand got tired at the end, though, so I'm not sure the ones at the bottom are any good. He straightened and stretched, then stood for a while looking at out the window. You know, I bet I can find something to do with them after all.
Really?
Yeah.
If we use them right, they may even reduce the library workload. The happiness bloomed in my chest.
Yay!
That's wonderful! Yeah. Yeah, it is. Thank you so much, Hana. Really, it means a lot. I had to do something to help you. He smiled and reached a hand towards me, as if to ruffle my hair, but stopped mid-gesture and instead turned back to his locker. Well, I need to get to class early today, so I'll be seeing you.
See you later.
Right. Well, have a good day.
Copacetic.
Copacetic. Hold on, you guys can't see that. Copacetic. I will. You too, Hana. Make it copacetic. He took the stack of flyers and put them in his locker. Then he left for a classroom. Further down the hall, as I watched the door close, I realized he hadn't been distant all this time. With a heart lighter than it was in days, I skipped down the stairs and headed to my own class. Time to make up the homework I didn't do last night. It was only a few minutes before my exhaustion began to hit me. I did not handle lack of sleep well either. I quickly grew grumpy and irritable, and recognizing this from an all-nighter I pulled to write an essay a few weeks ago, gave me my space. Aside from that, class went just as expected. The normal Boots boys avoided my eyes the entire period, excepting the occasional vomit-inducing glance from Shane. He seemed to be taking the situation much more seriously than the rest of them, and I had no idea why. I never did anything to him, but for some reason he was never fond of me, or my hair. I was a little closer to John and PUG though. I expected at least polite contact with them, but it seemed much difficult for them to even look at me. PUG especially seemed to be taking it hard. He was a kind soul, and I didn't think he'd be able to continue isolating Mai and me if he didn't have the others to support him. As it was, any time I accidentally crossed paths with him, he seemed to be fighting an internal battle. Flickers of emotion would pass across his face, regret, sadness, disbelief, so of course he'd end up turning around and heading back from whence he came. He'd been late to class several times. Shouldn't they know me better than this? Shouldn't they know I wouldn't do something like that to them? But what did we really have in common? A shared school, a tournament, the possibility of a shared hobby? Friendship meant different things to different people. To me, they were still my friends, but I guess to them, as I was jolted back into reality as the bell rang. The chaotic, shuffling chatter of students filled the room in the rush to leave for lunch. PPG, John, and Shane left the room faster than I thought humanly possible. Any hopes I had of walking to lunch together vanished with them. Guess they didn't want to be in my presence any more than they had to be. Sighing, I zipped my bag shut, then I felt a hand on my shoulder. Luke and Ian stood behind me, gazing at me in sympathy. At least Luke seemed sympathetic. Ian was being Ian. It was hard to tell what he was feeling with a face as impassive and disdainful as his.
Hey.
What's with the long face? Do you really have to ask? Nah, I guess not. I shouldered my bag in the silence that followed. I wasn't sure whether there was a point to this conversation. I just wanted to leave. You know, you don't need to worry. I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. Don't I? The Normal Boots Club are great people. Great people who drop me at the first sign of trouble. Look, I believe you're innocent, and because of that, I know they'll recognize it too. Just give them time. I mean, they can't all be as smart as me. He grinned like a proud school kid. How do you know I'm innocent? Luke laughed. He turned to Ian, who grimaced. It's time to go.
Oh yeah.
Aw yeah, yes sir. Luke followed Ian out of the room, whistling. I don't know who is weirder out of those two. I guess it doesn't matter, does it? They're both pretty hot. So she does like him. Is that all you think about?
Bingo.
Hey, I gotta think something to keep my spirits up in these dark times. And the dark times call for drastic measures. I shook my head. Let's get going. Maybe they'll have lobster for lunch again.
Yeah.
Lobster for lunch? Jesus! That's a rich kid's school if I ever heard of one. Freaking lobster? I sure hope so. We just came out of Poppy Hall when Mai stopped dead in her tracks. Oh shoot! What's wrong? I forgot my lunch money. Would you mind waiting here? I'm gonna run back and get it. She is going back and stealing stuff. Why else is she doing this? Because now she's gonna disappear again. Or maybe she's just hiding that she's actually trying to find the culprit. Maybe she's doing her own investigation or something. That's okay. I have more than enough for both of us.
Really?
Really? Is it okay if I mooch off you?
Yeah.
Sure. Mai jumped to my side, giving me a great big hug. Hana, you're the greatest. I promise I'll pay you back. You better. It wasn't like I could afford to be giving people handouts, especially not for Asagao's crazy expensive food. I mean, they're freaking serving lobster. Come on, let's go. I'll tell you a secret in return. What's that? Once, I saw Jeff shoving hamsters with helmets on them into tiny little cannons. Well, that's definitely a reference.
What? Mm-hmm.
He was trying to shoot them off into space. Space hamster. You know, I'm liking Satch's route just because there's so much hidden block club stuff in here. It's really not so much Satch's route right now. It's really awkward. I mean, Creeps found him in time and stopped him. I think he might have kept the hamsters too. See, if I didn't know Creeps was actually the doctor, the way that's worded would make me think Creeps as in like actual creeps. Like creepers. And the capital C wouldn't have not tipped me off. I would have not have even thought about it. Thank goodness. Maybe. I think I'd rather death by cannon than go home with Creeps. You have a point there. And now you know why Jeff's called Space Hamster. Wonder how much of that is true. Actually, I'm pretty sure he said it himself in one of his videos. That he's kind of just randomly chose that or something. I don't know. I forget. If I'm wrong, just go ahead and tell me, because I honestly don't remember. Let's go to lunch while I still have my appetite. Deal. We waited in line for our food, conscious of several stares shooting in our direction. Ignore them. Look, we get strawberry shortcake today. Yeah, great. I hated being stared at. We gathered food onto our trays and began the slow walk to the back of the cafeteria where our table was now located. Why did the Normal Boots Club sit in the middle of the cafeteria? We had to walk past them, everyone was watching. I tried to concentrate on the smell of strawberries and ham wafting from my tray, only to find myself thinking of Jared's cologne. Ugh, get a grip! As we trudged past them, Mai nudged me and smiled in their direction. No one was looking. They were all suddenly engrossed in their chopsticks and spoons. Everyone except Satch. Just before we made it to our table, something caught my attention. Space Hamster! Hey, Jeff! Jeff was smiling and waving at us. After a pause, the rest of the Hidden Block Club joined in. See? I'm liking this! Satch's route is cool, because Hidden Block Club. Hidden Block? Hidden Block, yeah! This is not a Hidden Block episode or something, I don't know. Oh! Mai and I smiled and waved in return, and sat down at our table with lifted spirits. Near us looked at the other, but we were thinking the same thing. The Normal Boots Club wasn't the center of the universe, and really, why did we expect anything different from them? So, I've been thinking. That's a bad sign. Rude. Who do you think would take the boots, and why? The Normal Boots Club is almost universally beloved. Why is that anyways? Oh, you know what? I just thought of something. Between Caddy and Walid talking, maybe it was them who took it. I see Caddy was like, shouldn't say anything, but they're our friends. I think Caddy might have done it. They're a group of crazy hot men surrounded by pubescent girls. You do the math. Right, got it.
Well,
Maybe they have a crazy fan that took it, then. She wanted to get their attention.
I don't know.
Seems an odd way to do it. They'd hate you afterwards. They say the opposite of love is indifference, not hatred. No, there has to be something in it for them. You don't think the Hidden Block Club? We glanced over at their table. We waved at him. Caddy beamed and waved back. Ian rolled his eyes.
Well,
I thought it was them at first, but now I don't think so. They're a lot nicer than I thought they were.
yeah.
I agree. There's no way they'd do it. Plus, Nora Boots guys are their friends. And the boots were locked up. Someone had to get access when no one was looking. I mean, it could be creeps. Because they were in the same goddamn closet, were they not? A school official? You think? Yeah, I mean, the librarian hates everyone in our school, and Satch in particular. And plus, there's that creepy nurse. Ugh, I forgot about him. Why does he wear that mask? I heard he killed his cat, and now he thinks its soul is inside it. He wouldn't have killed a cat, would he? Rumor has it, if you take the mask away from him, half of his face is burned.
What?
From what? Ex-wife tried to kill him. He glanced in our direction. We snapped our attention back to our food. Okay, let's just pretend it's not him. There's no way I can face that guy. Who has a motive for hurting the Normal Boots Club?
Uh-huh.
We do. Well, now we do. Not then. What about... The clatter rang out and a hush fell across the cafeteria. Muffled, angry voices came from the middle of the room. Shane and Satch seemed to be having some sort of disagreement. Shane was waving his arms wildly and pointing towards us. Satch shook his head vehemently. I really don't know how to say that word. Vehemently. PUG grabbed Shane's shoulder, but Shane shook it off. Finally, he seemed to settle down. Staring at the floor, he said something. The rest of the group stared at him in shock. After a brief pause, Satch gathered up his things and took leave off the table. He's not leaving the club.
What?
No way. That can't be right. Satch strode across the cafeteria, stopping just over our table. Heat radiated off of him. He was still upset, though his expression didn't suggest it. Mind if I sit here? Of course, go ahead. He placed his tray next to mine, sat down, and proceeded to eat his fish burger. Everything about him looked a picture of calm, but it was only because he was sitting next to me that I saw he was slightly trembling. After a while, conversation started up again. The Normal Boots guys looked mournfully at Satch, but no one made the move to follow him. Satch ignored them. So...
Hana.
I think you're innocent. Thank you. I couldn't let this keep going. Friends don't do this. People shouldn't do this. I can understand why, but they were letting fear cloud their compassion. I just couldn't do it. A small warmth bloomed within me, and tears pricked the back of my eyes. Do you think I'm innocent too? Satch turned to Maya, who looked at him uncertainly.
Well...
I trust Hana's faith in you. Oh, well, good. I think? Let's talk about something happier. How about the rest of the lunch passed comparatively uneventfully. The Hidden Block guys each gave Satch a pat on the back on their way out, with the exception of Caddy, who shook his hand. The Normal Boots men continued to ignore Mai and me. Before we knew it, class ended and the day was over. We'll find out what's at the knock of that door the next time we come back on Firemac Gameplay. So this is Firemac saying bye-bye, see you next time. Oh look, there's something about an anime.